Hello friends, my name is Brijesh and welcome all of you to CUBE, and here we have a wonderful session on closer fill in the blanks. Now many of you might be hearing this term for the first time, that what do you mean by the word closer? Closer basically means a passage which is given to you and that passage has a few blanks. Now we all have heard of fill in the blanks, right? Fill in the blanks में क्या होता है? In fill in the blanks you have one blank or two blank and there are 4 or 5 options given to you, and then depending upon the context you try to fill the blank, right? This is how you approach the fill in the blanks question. Now closer fill in the blanks is a bit different from fill in the blanks in the sense that you will have more than 4 or 5 blanks and it's a long passage or a long paragraph and you have to fill the blanks reading the entire paragraph. So I will give you a few examples here, and in those examples we have questions based on this kind of. So this is the passage. You all can see here, I would not call it as a passage, it's basically short paragraph. So you all can see this paragraph here, and this paragraph has 4 blanks, 5 blanks, correct? So let me use the pen here. Blank number 1, blank number 2, blank number 3, blank number 4 and blank number 5. So these are 5 blanks. I have kept 5 blanks, but in the exam you might have more than 5 blanks as well. And each blank is likely to carry 1 mark if it's a normal exam. In CUET it might have +5, right? So all these blanks have to be filled with one of the given options. So for blank number 1 you have these 4 choices. For blank number 2 you have these 4 choices, and subsequently in the next slide you will have blank number 3, blank number 4 and so on and so forth, right? So let's begin with this exercise here. It says climate change dash to long term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. So climate change dash to, this is a very important word and it tells us what kind of word is going to fill the blank. Now as you all can see, so I'm here in the side screen here, you all can see the words. It says climate change relates to, regards to, refers to or relies to. So you know regards is not the right word because you have with regards to. Rather than the word regards straight, you will have with regards to. So climate change, the best word is refers to, correct? So if I have to use something, you would see climate change refers to long term shifts in temperature. So let me change this color of the pen, it is a bit, right? So climate change refers to, so I am writing it here, refers to long term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Relates to, again there is no relation. Climate change is a word. See, understand, when you say relates, you use relates with, and relationship is not the same as refers to. When you use a word, that word refers to something rather than relates to something. And even if you use relates, it should be relates with something and not relates to something. It's not the right idiom. So climate change refers to long term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be dash, such as through variations in the solar cycle. So this such as is used to show like. The function of like is the same as function of such as. Such as is basically an example and like becomes some sort of similarity. So this is the basic difference between them. Most of us use them interchangeably. So it says here these shifts may be dash such as through variations in the solar cycle. Now these shifts may be natural, unnatural, ethereal or cyclical. So now you see here that there is solar cycle given here. So these shifts may be dash as through variations in the solar cycle. It is not that the solar cycle is making the shift cyclical. No. The solar cycle might influence these shifts. This is the difference. So you should not say that just because we have the word cycle, this becomes cyclical. There is no evidence for it because the solar cycle is causing this. That doesn't mean that the shifts are going to be cyclical. But we know that because the solar cycle is the reason behind it, it could be natural. Anything that happens because of nature can be called as natural. When you get rainfall because of monsoon, that is natural. But when you create rainfall by using technology, that is unnatural, artificial or man-made. So if you look at the sentences in the paragraph, you will realize that why it should be natural and not cyclical. Now look at the other sentences. But since the 1800s, human activities have been dash the driver of climate change. That means since this century, human activities has become the reason. Before this, human activities were not the reason. So the author is not trying to emphasize on cycle as such. You also have to understand the entire context of the passage and then mark the answer. So the author says these shifts may be dash. Now you can put the word natural or you can put the word cyclical. It can't be unnatural, it can't be ethereal. Ethereal basically means heavenly, delicate, beautiful. It's a very poetic word. It's not used in these kind of contexts. So these shifts may be cyclical or natural. These are the two options. But when I go ahead in the paragraph, I realize that the author says, but since the 1800s, human activities have been. So before this, just a moment. So before this, you had basically the variations happening because of solar cycle. But since this time period, variations are happening because of human activities. So this human activities makes it completely natural. So because we have used the word human activities, this is basically what? Unnatural. So in the earlier case, because of solar cycle, this can be called as natural. You have to understand the context. See, this is not an easy question to understand. तो क्या हो गया? But since the 1800s, human activities have been the dash driver. So let's go to the next. So we have filled the first blank in the earlier slide, we have filled the second blank, and now we come to the third blank. It says, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the dash driver of climate change. So is it main, is it minor, is it secondary, or is it unusual? Human activities have been the dash drivers of climate change. Can I say it is main driver of climate change? Because earlier the reason was natural, such as solar cycle, but since the 1800s, human activities have become the main drivers of climate change and not minor driver. If it's a minor driver, then why should you worry about it? If something is a minor cause, there is no need to worry about it, right? Why to write such a huge paragraph? And secondly, based on our understanding of the passage, the author is discussing lots of things because of which we have climate change. So the author is in effect blaming human beings, and therefore he would not say that human activities is a minor reason. In fact, human activities is the main reason now, and that's why if minor goes out, then the word secondary also goes out, and unusual is not again fitting in the context. So this becomes the right answer, right? Are you following me? So it is very important that you be very, very logical with what you are doing here. So it says here, climate change dash to long term refers to long term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in the solar cycle, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to dash fossil fuels, due to burning fossil fuels, due to burnt fossil fuels, or burned fossil fuels, or burn fossil fuels. Now you might realize that this is just a typical grammatical structure question. This has nothing to do with logic. Because of burning fossil fuels, we have so much of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So burning is an activity which is happening, and therefore it is burning fossil fuels rather than burned fossil fuels. You have burnt toast, you have burned fingers, but you can't say burnt fossil fuels. Fossil fuel is not an object which is burnt. It is basically the burning of it. So again, it's an idiom. I mean, I don't say that this kind of questions can be marked by logical justification, but this is how the word is used, and therefore burning is the right answer. I hope you have understood this. It's basically a usage question rather than a question of logic, right? Going ahead, we have a very, very interesting fifth blank. It says here, burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the earth, trapping the sun's heat and dash temperatures. So you rising temperatures or raising temperatures, so both B and C are in fact, sorry, B and D. If you look at the screen, options B and D are the same. How can you have two right answers? And that means that both B and D will go out, though it's a printing mistake from our end. But whenever two options mean the same, then they will go out. Now you might say, sir, even rising and arising mean the same, then how can you choose between the two? Now there is a slight difference between rise and arise. For example, raise and raising, sorry. So raise, rise and raise. This is the difference. We have to see the difference between these two, rise and raise. What is the difference between rise and raise? So let's take an example. When you say the sun is rising in the east, or the sun rises in the east, when you say the sun rises, that means the sun is the subject and rises is the verb. The subject and the verb, there is no object. But suppose if your father, who is working in an MNC, gets a hike in salary, he will say that my company has raised my salary. So this raise is used with objects of verb. Understand, I am using the word again, which with objects of verb. It means that when the verb has object, then you use raise. When the verb does not have object, then you use rise. Example, the sun rises. The sun is the subject, rises is the verb, there is no object. In the east is not an object, in the east is basically a prepositional phrase. So the sun rises in the east, correct? This is how it is. Or the other way is that my father or the company has raised my father's salary, correct? So raise is, so again, what is happening here? Trapping the sun's heat and dash temperatures. That means temperatures are being made to rise by someone, and who is that? Human activities. So can I say raising temperatures? Because after raising you have some object, and therefore raising temperatures. After raising you have some object, and therefore it is raising temperatures. Correct, people? I hope you have understood this. So how would you go ahead? Burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the earth, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures. So there is someone who is doing it, correct? So for example, if I remain in this room by switching off the AC, then what happens is I am raising the water vapor content of this room. So I am raising the water vapor because I am doing it deliberately. But when something happens without any kind of object, then you use rise, correct? That's how you have to use it. So a bit challenging question, but it teaches you a lot about how to use different kind of words which look very similar. Let's come to the next paragraph. So in this paragraph we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again 5 questions more, 5 blanks, and let's look at the question. It says, whaling is the process of dash of whales for their usable products such as meat and blubber, which can be turned into a type of oil that became increasingly important in the dash revolution. So this is the first sentence, it stops here. So let's try to understand what exactly the author is trying to say. Whaling is the process of dash of whales. So you can kill whales, you can attack whales, you can hunt whales, or you can murder whales. But is it right to say that whales are being murdered by human beings? I mean, do you ever use the word murder for the killing of animals? Someone might kill your pet dog, someone might kill your pet cat, but would you ever use the word murder for that? No, because murder is always used in the context of human society. So when one man deliberately plans to kill someone else, then it is called as a murder. On the other hand, when you're driving a car and you accidentally, kill someone, that is not murder. Murder is always having some sort of evil intention. So you might kill a dog, you might kill a cat, you might kill a human being as well. It happens by accident. Sometimes you might not kill by accident, but then that is not used in the context of human beings. In that case, you are a murderer. In the case of non-human animals, you would still use the word kill, right? So let's look at the word here. Whaling is the process of killing of whales. Quite possible, because it's an animal. Attacking, do you attack whales? Now the problem is, in both the cases you are causing harm. But attack always has personal grudge. You attack your enemy. You attack the thief. You attack someone with whom you have some sort of hatred, some sort of animosity. So that is known as attacking. For example, you might be attacked by someone because you are carrying a lot of money. So there is always some sort of hatred and enmity between people when there is the word attack. So you might have a group of lions attacking a group of hyenas. It's quite possible because there is some sort of enmity. But here human beings are doing it. And when they do it for gain or for profit, we don't use the word attack or kill. We use the word hunt and not even murder. So this becomes a very, very simple question. You are hunting the whales, right? And what kind of revolution? We all have heard of industrial revolution. So industrial revolution is answer B. Industrious revolution? No. Industrious is an adjective, the way industrial is an adjective, but there is a difference. Industrial refers to pertaining to industry, whereas industrious means hardworking. So if you say that my younger brother has gone to the best college in America, that means basically he is a industrious person, hardworking person, right? Further ahead it says, by the 16th century, it had risen to be the dash industry. So which industry? Principal, principles or principles? So again, very and interesting questions these are. If you look at the word principle, this principle and these two principles are different. And once you have these two words, you know that what is the meaning of these two words, because these are plural forms. These are plural forms of the earlier singular forms. So you can say that it has risen to be the dash industry. So now the point is, industry is a noun. And therefore, the word that comes before a noun is an adjective. And adjectives are never plural. They are always singular. So the principles and the principles will go out. Now the point is, which principle would you use? This principle means chief or important. You have principles in your school. स्कूल में होते हैं ना आपके प्रिंसिपल, वो कौन से प्रिंसिपल है? वो ये वाले प्रिंसिपल. They are very important. They are very important. Therefore, you have these kind of principles, right? And this principle is moral values. I've just put वसूलों वाला, है ना? तो moral values, pertaining to moral values. So this also becomes a very, very easy question. Now let's go ahead and take the next blank. It says Basque coastal regions of Spain and France. The industry spread dash the world, throughout the world. So through and out is one word. You can't have this gap in between. When you put through and out as two separate words, then they become different. So through is यहाँ से निकलना, out means बाहर जाना. So that is not making sense here. Throughout means everywhere, right? And in and within are not idiomatically correct. They are not the right prepositions, and therefore B is the right answer. Correct? The industry spread the dash world throughout the world and became dash profitable. What is profitable? Is it a noun or is it an adjective? Yes. Profitable is a noun or is an adjective? Profit is a noun. Profitable becomes an adjective. Profitable business. What kind of business? Profitable business. So business is a noun, and anything that comes before a noun is an adjective, and therefore profitable is an adjective, right? And what modifies an adjective? Adverb. It is difficult. It is becoming increasingly difficult. Difficult adjective है. Increasingly difficult. तो increasingly adverb है किसके लिए? Difficult adjective के लिए. So whenever you place something before an adjective, it has to be an adverb. ठीक है? So it is becoming what? Increasingly profitable. सबको लग रहा होगा ना? लोग बोलेंगे critically क्यों नहीं? अरे critically क्यों हो रहा है भाई? Critically basically means very important. Critical यहाँ से वहाँ हुआ तो खत्म हो जाएगा. ऐसा तो है नहीं. Increasingly is the right word. So Basque coastal regions of the industry spread throughout the world and became increasingly profitable in terms of trade and resources. That's how you use it, right? So let's go ahead and take the Next question. We have finished 10 questions. They are very interesting and they teach you a lot about word usage. Dash. Belugas are dash and form groups of 10 animals. So when you are forming group of 10 animals, then what kind of a person you are? Garrulous, gorgeous, verbose, or gregarious? Very interesting. Yes. Garrulous, gorgeous, verbose, or gregarious. Now you have to understand the meaning of each word. Now you all know what is gorgeous. Gorgeous is beautiful, attractive, looking, attracting attention. You may not be beautiful, but gorgeous basically means very good looking, right? Particularly because of wearing clothes and all. A simple person will not be called as gorgeous. You might be very beautiful or handsome, even not being in very beautiful clothes. But gorgeous means some sort of outer covering because of which you have become more. So a monarch who is coming dressed as a king would be called gorgeous, right? Now gorgeous is not making sense here because belugas are gorgeous because they move in groups. There is no contextual. See, you have to always use the word based on context. How can someone become gorgeous just because he is moving in groups? So this is not the right word. Garrulous means talkative. Note down the words. Garrulous means talkative. Okay? So I will write it down here. Now verbose. Verbose means using too many words. For example, if I ask you, please tell me something about yourself, and you take too many words to explain about yourself, so you're garrulous. Garrulous means a person who has taken too many words to explain something. Now, this is not the right word. And it's okay. So garrulous means talkative. Just a moment. Garrulous means talkative. Verbose means taking. Verbose and garrulous both are talkative. But there's a difference. Verbosity comes from using too many words, and garrulous is talking, chattering unnecessarily. So you might be traveling by train, and the ladies right opposite to you will keep on talking all the while. So they are garrulous. But verbose is you go to a salesman and you say कि भैया बताओ कि ये अच्छा है. So he took too many words to explain something which he could have explained in just 1 or 2 sentences. So that is verbose. And the last is gregarious. Gregarious is used for people who like to socialize. So when you like to move in groups and you like to remain with people, you say gregarious, not garrulous, gregarious. So gregarious is the right word that describes the belugas because they move in groups of 10 on average. Although during the summer, they can dash in hundreds. So they can gather in hundreds. You don't say the animals are accumulating in hundreds. Accumulating as a word is used when you are collecting something. And you don't say I am accumulating cows and pigs. You don't accumulate cows and pigs. You accumulate some money, you accumulate the papers, you accumulate something lying on the floor, but you don't accumulate pet dogs and cats. So this is not the right word. You can't use it for animals or for living things. Again, survive in the context. Congregation can make sense, but congregation always happens when human beings come together with a certain purpose. For example, we have heard this term that Prayagraj is the place which has seen the congregation of the largest number of human beings. Now, why we say congregation? Congregation is always with a certain purpose, some sort of religious purpose. The belugas are going together, but that is not congregation. They are gathering, but not with some religious purpose. And therefore, D is not the right word. They are dash swimmers, but can dive 7. So when you use the word but here, it always is used for contrast. I am rich, but very unhappy. I am intelligent, but poor. So you are using but because there are two qualities which are positive and negative. So when you say that they can dive 700 meters, if someone is capable of diving 700 meters, then it's a very, very positive thing. So if this positivity has come here, then it means that in the, just a moment. If this positivity has come here, that means in the earlier one there must be negativity. Only then you will have this word justified. How can you justify the conjunction but? You need two ideas, one positive, the other negative. So the positive idea is that they can dive 700 meters below the surface. So what is the negative idea? The negative idea is that they are excellent swimmers. No, that is not negative. Good swimmers, not negative. Fast swimmers, not negative. The only negative word is slow. They are slow swimmers, but they can dive. I am a slow learner, but I can understand things and I remember them for a long time. So this is the answer. So you see, even the smallest thing can be very, very logical. Right? So let's go ahead. They can dive 700 meters below the surface. They are opportunistic feeders and their diets vary according to their dash. So they are opportunistic feeders and their diets vary according to what? Locality, locations, territory or place. Now this locality is used for society. The locality in which I live. So when you book Ola or Uber, he asks you, भैया आपका location क्या है? या मैडम आपका location क्या है? The location changes quickly, but the locality remains fixed. So you say that in Gurgaon, I live in a locality which is very, very expensive, or which has so many rich people, or where so many rich people live. So locality is always used in human context, particularly when you are emphasizing on the society of the human beings. Location is always changing, and because the Velugas are swimming, then their location must be changing all the while, and therefore this is more a logical option than any other. Territorial is always possessive. This is my territory, it is fixed. So your territories are, see, for example, the Indian Army. The Indian Army is on the border because it wants to safeguard the Indian territory. You own it, you possess it. But the Belugas are moving, so how can they have territorial control over something? It's not the logical choice. The logical choice is locations. And then it says worldwide. So you don't say worldwide as two different words. This is not right. This is the correct one. Worldly is too many words, and worldly is basically, see, the word worldly is used in the context of, worldly things, not spiritual. So for example, you can say that my grandfather was not interested in the worldly affairs of life. Now what is a worldly affair? Dunyadari. The right word for worldly is dunyadari, concerned with the world. So you are interested in making money, building houses, owning many cars, having power. So all this is worldly. On the other hand, someone wants to, become spiritual and all these things, write poems and, so you can say spiritual, not worldly. Other worldly isko bolte hain hum log, theek hai? So it's a easy question, pretty much manageable, I would say. Now we can go to the next one. Right, so we have the fourth question. Again, we have 5 blanks. You can see all these blanks. Water vapor dash for. So the word is accounts for. This is the present tense and this is the past tense. Now in the context, accounting will not come alone. You should have is accounting for, right? And water vapor is a singular idea, so account for will not come. Because water vapor is singular, you will have a verb which has s in it. Water vapor accounts for. Accounts for basically means answers for, right? So comprises, here accounts for means basically comprises or plays a part. Water vapor accounts for the largest percentage of greenhouse dash. Now greenhouse effect, affectation or affected. Now again it becomes a problem. Most of you would not mark these two, but you will always be confused between affect and effect. Now please understand, effect is a noun and affect is a verb. Effects of the First World War. Effects of the First World War, right? Effects of the First World War. So if this effects of the First World War, then can I say greenhouse effect? Greenhouse se jo hota hai. So affect is always a verb. The tragedy affected me for the rest of my life. I can see the effects of my hard work, the consequences of my hard work. The effect is consequence. So greenhouse effect means greenhouse se jo hota hai, यानी consequence की बात कर रहे हैं. So the word is effect. When you put affect, it's an action to influence, right? This kind of performance affects the morale of the team. So if Virat Kohli scores 130 balls, then you will say that the captain's knock affects the overall performance of the team, right? So this is a very, very simple word. Please understand, it can come in confusing words. Water vapor accounts for the largest percentage of the greenhouse effect, right? Water vapor concentrations fluctuate regionally, but human activity does not directly dash water vapor. Now here you have the word affect. Human activity does not directly influence water vapor, है ना? Human activity verb आ गया ना ये? Your presence affects me. Human activity does not directly affect water vapor concentrations, except at dash scales, except at global scales or local scales or natural scales. So near dash fields, यानी कि खाली near इसके fields में होता है, बाकी जगह नहीं होता. The author says that water vapor concentrations fluctuate regionally. अगर regionally fluctuate होते हैं तो locally fluctuate होते होंगे. But human activity does not directly affect water vapor except at dash levels. तो regional वहां पर है. If the concentrations fluctuate regionally, that means something must be happening locally. Regional is equal to local. Global तो नहीं होगा. And these two don't put words which don't make any sense. You have to understand the logic behind it. So it says here that such as near dash fields, such as so except at local scales such as near dash fields, correct? So irrigating fields, no. Irritating fields, no. Irrigation fields. So this is the right answer, correct? It says here that water vapor concentrations except at dash scales at local scales such as near irrigation fields. ठीक है? So this is how you have to use. The irrigation is basically a type of field जहाँ पर आप crops उगाते हो. So basically the fields are irrigation fields. That's how you have. So we have seen all these 20 questions. Very interesting questions. So many confusing words. When to use ing, when to use ed, when to use what. It teaches a lot about word usage. There are many words which are so common and similar that we get confused. So these questions will teach you how to use these kind of words. So it was a good session, half an hour mostly. So I hope you all enjoyed the session. You can go through these questions, and we have a very beautiful app at the end, CUET Planner app. The link is there on the website, and also we'll put it on the YouTube video here, and you can check the possible CUET colleges that you can apply to. That's all we have. Thank you.